Investigative journalist Tucker Carlson has just come out on the Sean Ryan show to talk about aliens, UFOs, and how apparently the US government has a quote-unquote agreement with aliens. So Tucker Carlson, for anyone that doesn't know, he was born in 1969 and he is an American conservative political commentator who and writer of the hosted and nightly political show Tucker Carlson Tonight on Fox News from 2016 to 2023. And since his contract with Fox News was terminated, he has hosted Tucker on X and has been an advocate for the US President Donald Trump. Carlson has been described as perhaps the highest profile proponent of Trumpism. And is the most influential voice in the right-wing media without a close second. Now, he's been very, very known to be involved with UFOs and alien news, and he sat down, like I said, with Sean Ryan on the Sean Ryan show, where the video was titled Revolution, World War III, WTC Building 7 and Supernatural Phenomenon, and that is what we're going to be talking about here. So this is kind of linking into aliens, but the things that they spoke about was incredibly fascinating. So let's get into it.
Do you know how complex a power grid is? You know how it took 100 years to figure out our fucking power grid? Really smart people with specialties you can't even understand. Wattage, amperage, you don't know the difference. AC, DC, you don't know anything about electricity. And you're going to replace our grid? You don't know anything. You have no skills. That's a gut reaction I can't understand. Like, I approach everything with like a profound sense of my own ignorance. I don't know how that works, so I'm not going to break it. And so people with this weird and destructive instinct, that's what it is. It's not a conspiracy, it's an instinct, have taken over all the levers of power. And I think it's like a spiritual force. That's my personal view. I can't prove it, but I really believe it.
Now, this is where we kind of ride into the whole supernatural, spiritual thing, because yeah, like you'll see.
But maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. But that's what I perceive. And
well, that's what I think it is too.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing anymore makes any damn sense. I'm convinced that when we die, we will see that everything that we know or think we know is a lie.
I totally agree. Yeah. Well, I know that that's true. I can tell you how I know, but I do know that when we die, we'll know. It'll all make sense. I know that for whatever it's worth. So, sorry, but yes, that is absolutely true. When we die, and I was talking to a friend of mine recently who was like a new friend of mine, but I really love. That's the cool thing about this moment is like you're meeting all these people who are so deep and honest. It's like it's wonderful. It almost makes up for everything sad, but. I was talking to someone recently, and he said to me, he goes, I'm not excited to die. I've got all these kids or whatever. No one wants to die, but I'm kind of psyched to, like, understand what all this is.
That's what everyone wants to know. Like, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What's the purpose? Like, what's the end? Like, what happens after this? You know, it's very intriguing thought processes.
I've had this conversation several times. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that way.
You do?
Totally. I'm not looking forward to death at all. I happen not to be afraid of it.
You want the answers.
I do.
Know what makes sense.
Yeah, and I know as a dead certain fact that awaits. So,
do you think that the kind of pushing us into Civil War scenario, do you think that is to distract us, or do you think that's to dismantle the entire United States, or both?
Again, I don't.
I think the whole Civil War thing there's being spoken about due to the whole Donald Trump sentencing. No, well, not sentencing, but prosecution and conviction. I do think that could spark a civil war if he's sentenced on July the 11th, I think it is. So I think that's where they're kind of leaning into with this.
I don't know that anyone anywhere. I was with Klaus Schwab this winter.
You were with Klaus Schwab?
I was just trying to casually drop that, Sean. I was with Klaus Schwab. As Klaus Schwab said to me. No, I spoke at an event in the Middle East he was at, and whatever, I don't know Klaus Schwab, but I got to see him up close, And he's like an idiot. He's like an elderly idiot. Seems a little senile, like doesn't have any idea what he's talking about at all. He's totally unimpressive. And it was just another reminder that the closer you get, like a Toria Newland, for example, who basically started the current war in Ukraine. She's like this kind of sad, fat, dumb girl, actually. And so the closer you get, the more you realize that the people running things are like mediocre. They're buffoons. They have no idea what they're doing. Tony Blinken, I mean, really? Anyway, no, I don't think there's like a conspiracy. I doubt they're smart enough to like articulate it and write it down or anything like that. But it's just like, again, they're weak people. They're motivated by rage and envy. They're not the people who built the current society that we live in. Anything worth having, they did not build, from our beautiful train stations to our power grid, to any of our infrastructure, to Harvard University, to our legal code, to anything that's great about America. They didn't, protect the national parks. They had nothing to do with Yellowstone. Like they didn't create anything, and they're not capable of it. And they're mad about it. And they're mad in the way that primitive, envious people are mad. They don't celebrate beauty, they destroy beauty. You see this a lot. It's one of the main motivators of evil, in my view. And they just want to tear it down. They're mad about it. Like, they couldn't have done that. Dead white men. Okay. Who created our entire society. Like everything, all our founding documents, everything. And they hate them most. Why do they hate them, actually? Why would you be mad? Why are you mad at James Madison? Like, he's long gone. Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. Okay. Unlike Muhammad, or whatever. They come up with these pretexts to justify their hate, but really it's just envy. Because they're not capable people. They have no skills. Like Tony Blinken?
Yeah.
Like Tony Blinken couldn't change a tire on your truck. Like, he's a fucking idiot. Like, actually. It's not a surprise that he's mismanaged the world. He's out there like playing guitar in Kiev, which he calls Kyiv, because he's just he's like a child. They all are. And they're mad about the fact that they're fraudulent and weak and helpless, actually. Supply chain breaks down. They all starve to death. Like, they know that. And they're mad about it. And
very bold statements here. Like, this is explosive.
And so they want to wreck the things that others built. This is like the oldest story there is.
You think that's what it is?
Of course. It's why the Vandals sacked Rome. Of course. You built this great. It's why people spray graffiti on beautiful buildings in New York City. You didn't build this. Neither did your ancestors. You're a fucking moron. You couldn't build anything. So you tear it down. Of course. It's the oldest impulse there is. Vandalism. It's all vandalism.
Man.
And vandalism is committed by vandals. And vandals are, by definition, primitive. And they may have gone to HBS. They may be rich, but they're still primitives, actually. They're not capable of any of this. That's why, and they have no appreciation for beauty at all. They hate beauty. It's the first thing. And look at their architecture. It tells you they hate beauty. Look at their modern art. It's anti-beauty. It's ugly on purpose because they don't have the ability to create something beautiful because they're totally non-creative, actually. And non-creative people are hostile to beauty. Creative people love beauty. Of course, it's what they strive to create themselves. Just like self-made people are not afraid of going bankrupt because they can build it again. You're an entirely self-made person. If someone took away the studio, you'd be like, build another one. Because you would, because you know you have that power. Inherited money people who've created nothing, they're living off the creation of others, are terrified of losing anything because they know they can't replace it. So our leadership class...
Very interesting points made, actually, and I do see it from his point of view, and he makes some really, really valid points. It's like, if you took away all of Elon Musk's riches, what would he be? He would still be something because he created his riches, he created his fortune, he came from nothing. And actually, it gives you a lot more respect for those kind of people.
It's a fucking great point.
Our leadership class is basically... We're at the inherited money stage of empire, where we're all living on the labor of people who are long dead, and we know we can't recreate it. We could not create our power grid right now. We don't have enough engineers to do that. And so all of these fantasies will soon crash and burn, and I would include EVs and AI and all the other energy-devouring acronyms that we're now in love with. All of those need to be powered by electricity, and our current grid can't do it, not even close to do it. Like, I'm not good at math, but even I know that.
Yeah.
And so at some point, someone is going to need to move from the world of the theoretical, AI, EVs, all these stupid ideas, their stupid justifications, climate change, whatever they are, going to need to move to like the field of like physical engineering. How do we create enough electricity? How do these competing imperatives of like stopping climate change, we can control the weather because we're God. How does that mesh with the idea that none of us are ever going to have to work again because computers will make the decisions for us, AI. Well, they're going to need like practical answers. And this class of people who run our country are totally incapable of coming up with those answers because they have no skills. And that's why they're destroying it. I mean, it's so obvious what's happening.
And this really like sparks the thought of like what happens when that level of creativity dies. Like, we always talk about AI taking over. We always talk about I've forgotten the word for it. My mind's gone blank. But like, we created artificial intelligence taken over, but really that's soon going to be the only creative outlet that we have, because really a lot of people hinge a lot on AI these days well, obviously because it's quicker, it's more efficient, it's cheaper than manual labour, so therefore it makes sense to use it. But then do we just dumb down the human race by removing that burden from people? It's such an interesting thought.
And because history is the same story. Anyway,
Man. Do you think we're going into World War III?
we're really close to it, as you know. So
I think
really, really, really close. The fact that anyone would even consider getting within 1,000 miles of fucking around with a nuclear exchange just shows you that the core impulse here is suicide.
Wow, very strong opinions there. So I am going to skim over the World War III thing, because I obviously don't want to scaremonger. I don't want to petrify people with the idea. We all know what the climate of the world is right now. You know, that's not the point of this channel, and it's not why we're here. We're here to talk about supernatural occurrences and aliens. What has happened here? Go away. There we go. Right, let's get into it.
But it took you, blockhead, so long to see it clearly, and then to admit it. There's like some... Can I say one thing and then I'll stop? I cannot keep a straight trajectory with my thinking sometimes. But what I find so striking about the UFOs, this is the main takeaway I have, is like there's this debate like, is this stuff... I hate to use the word reporting, but just like it has been written about since people have been writing. But I, whatever that is, maybe it's not so crazy to... Maybe there's something there. Culture, Indians, all the same. The religions, religion of the modern Christians, it's Hinduism, just chair, and that they reproduce with people. Again, Christianity, that they're physical, shadow, missly. They all believe that. Very true. Creation commonalities that are very striking between all. But there are commonalities that are very striking between all world religions I'm aware of and all creation myths. And one of them, and this is of course true for Christianity, very true, is that the belief that supernatural beings take physical form. They all believe that. The Greek myths, Jesus, most famously, but that they take physical form, that they're not just like some ethereal, they're not just shadows floating around, specters, fog, that they're physical. Like they're as real as the arm of your chair. And that they reproduce with people. Again, Christianity believes that.
Wow.
Jesus, immaculate conception, spirit reproduces with human woman. That's what the story is. And it's described in Genesis as well, in Genesis 6. But again, it's not just the religion of the ancient Hebrews or the religion of the modern Christians. It's Hinduism as well, and the animist religions, the religions of, to the extent we understand them or know about them, of the American Indians, all the same.
Even if you look as far back as ancient mythology, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Roman times, there's even talk about supernatural beings that are not of this planet being around, even in their mythologies, which is so fascinating. And it's interesting that even back then, ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, ancient, all of these ancient times, like back before the world started to kind of come together and learn about other places, all of these kind of scriptures all had their own interpretation of something. Now, these guys haven't cross-conversed about this and, like, taken ideas and mythologies from other people. No. They had their own mythologies, then they merged it together when they came together, and they, like, you know, cross-shared mythologies, and they all spoke about something, the same thing, just slightly different every time. It's very interesting.
So if every culture in the world that we know about has left any kind of written or physical record is reaching the same conclusions about something, maybe there's something there. And maybe it's not so crazy to think that what everyone else has always thought since the beginning of time, which that there is this combination in cases of, you know, human beings and the spiritual realm, whatever that is. I can speak about it with no precision at all because I don't understand the specifics of it, but I know that it has been written about since people have been writing. And so it's a little weird to think that in 1945, really the day we dropped that first bomb on Hiroshima, from then until now, it's just a speck of time in the continuum of history. For that one period, we've assumed that's not true, but everyone else has always assumed it is true. I'm kind of going with everyone else on that, just on the odds, okay?
Yep.
It's a very long-winded way of answering your question, but I think that's kind of what we're looking at. I think there's some evidence that that's real. So, and I don't want to fully articulate it because it sounds like so out of the realm, but it's not out of anyone else's realm. In fact, it was at the very center of everyone else's realm until like just the other day. So I don't think it's a crazy thing to think, and I happen to believe that's true. So whatever, but I can't prove it. So I'm certainly not an evangelist on the subject at all, and I also don't know how that helps anybody to say it. So I've like tried not to talk about it because I don't know it's true, and I don't really know what you do about it if it is.
What was
other
it
than
that
say your prayers?
What was it that what was it that led you to believe
Talking
that?
to a lot of people. I got really interested in it, and since that is my job, that's literally my job, is to call people and see them and have dinner with them and talk to them. And that's what I've done my whole life. So it's like that's just natural for me. It's not a hobby. It's my profession. I hate to use the word reporting because it's been so discredited by the liars. Oh, we've done a lot of reporting. Here at NBC News, we've done a lot of reporting. Fucking liar. You know, you talk to some flack at CIA who told you a bunch of lies, which you're now repeating to me and my kids. So shut up. You haven't done any reporting. I hate to use the word reporting, but just like satisfying your curiosity by trying to identify who might know, talking to a bunch of people about it, assessing who's telling the truth. Maybe they're wrong anyway, but you can kind of feel whether someone's telling the truth. And there are ways to know or to get closer to knowing whether someone's telling the truth. And just talk to a lot of people. And I've done that because I got really interested in it, sort of by accident. I never thought I'd be interested in this at all. And so I talked to a lot of people, and I was really shocked by what credible people told me. They could all be wrong. Of course, I can't prove it.
Yeah.
But I became completely satisfied, I'll say that they were not lying.
This is the thing, you have to there's an element of you stop going down the route of, when you can tell that someone's not lying, you then look at them and you're like, right, what's your that's when you go in the background checks, it's like the credentials, looking to see what they've done, to see if they're actually informed in what they're telling you. And after that, it's down to trust. You just have to trust that they do know what they're talking about and it's not misconstrued in any way. They might be thinking that they're telling you their absolute truth, but it might not be the absolute truth. So you've got to be really careful.
And that they were right or in the vicinity of right. I always assume the details are wrong. I was a police reporter for a while, and you interview someone like a shooting. You've obviously seen shootings, but most people don't see shootings. So you think if you saw a shooting, you'd like remember every detail of the shooting. They get them all wrong. People aren't good at detail. Okay, that's just true. But they are good at themes. They're good at themes. Like, they remember the guy's fat. He may have been 400 pounds. He may have been 280. He was fat. Like, if everyone says the guy was fat, he was fat. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what we do. We can't say that. And so if everybody you talk to is saying, oh, this is really upsetting, I don't know what this means, but here's what I know, here's what I heard someone say, I was in a meeting, or here's what, what I mean? It was that kind of stuff. And I didn't talk to anybody in the UFO community. I'm not even sure what that is. I know I don't trust I don't trust anybody, actually. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my job to trust people, so it's my job to assess whether what they're saying is right or not. So I talked to people who I thought had firsthand knowledge, and I talked to a number of them. And then I was like, whoa, I'm out. because I don't need to go farther than that. I mean, I think that the real struggles are unseen. That is absolutely a part of Christian theology. I didn't fully appreciate it at all. It's a part of every theology. In fact, it is theology. That is theology. The belief that the real struggles are in the spiritual realm. That has been a constant belief since the beginning of history, recorded history. Everybody has thought that, except us in the West, since 1945. I can't say that enough. So once you get perspective on this question, you're like, okay, that may sound crazy to someone who thinks buying shit on Amazon is the meaning of life, but to every other person in the world, we may disagree about what the truth is. I'm sure we will, but we will never disagree with the fact that there's a lot of shit going on that we cannot see or measure with our senses. That is absolutely true. And of course, looking back, you have experiences, and we talked about this in great detail at breakfast. You look back and you're like, okay, that's what duh. The only surprise is not that it happened, but that it took you, blockhead, so long to see it clearly, and then to admit it. There's some. Can I say one thing and then I'll stop? I cannot keep a straight trajectory with my thinking sometimes. But what I find so striking about the UFOs, this is the main takeaway I have, is there's this debate is this stuff, these phenomena, which are clearly, obviously real. I mean, there's no debate about that. There's a lot of shit that people can't explain in the sky and underwater. We know that.
Absolutely. And if you just take a moment to listen to people's accounts and details and their experiences, it's impossible to deny that there is something, because these people, you can tell the people that want to make these stories up for fame and notoriety, and you can tell the people that don't. And those are the people that you really need to listen to.
Fact. So the debate is this government technology, is it from outer space, or is it some spiritual realm here? I've already told you my view of it. But what I find so interesting, we know the government's lied about it. They're lying about it now. That's a fact. There's no way around it. They've absolutely lied about it in very elaborate ways. I am really struck. Here's my current thinking on it. The main effort that the U.S. government has put into its disinformation, its lying on this topic, has been not to mislead you on the technology. They're not telling me they don't have anti-gravity technology. It sounds from watching your podcast that they do, which I believe. No problem believing that. Their main interest is in convincing you that the supernatural is not real. And if you watch, and there are people in the media who specialize in spreading these lies on behalf of the government. I'm not going to name anybody, but some of them work at the New York Times. Once you realize what the point of the exercise is, it's crazy. And I hope you'll assess all the fact-checking and the skepticism on UAPs through this lens. The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Well, then you have to ask yourself, why?
That's interesting.
It is so interesting. Why is that important to you? Why do you care if I think the supernatural is real? Why is that? First of all, why is it? How dare you, as my government, try to get involved in my spiritual beliefs? That's totally not your area, so get the fuck out of there, okay, A. But B, why has that been so important for 80 years for you to convince me the supernatural is not real?
It's a good question.
Why is
it's
that?
A great
and of course, I
question.
can't answer the question. But my gut level response is, well, because if it is real. Whatever they're telling you is not real. And if they're punishing you for saying something you know for a fact it's not real, you're not allowed to say that. Oh, not because they don't have no problem with me lying, because they lie. They lie for a living. So lying brings no sanction. You can lie all you want. What you can't do is tell the truth. That is a fact. So once you know that, you can sort of reverse engineer their lies and know with some certainty that whatever they're telling you is not true is in fact true. That's exactly the truth. It's exactly the truth. But then you have to ask motive. It's not a profit motive. Does it make them rich to deny that there's supernatural forces? No. What is that? And I don't know the answer. But
they'll hide it behind national security threat. That's what they always say. They say they can't talk about it because it could deem to be a national security threat.
But the obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces, actually. And I think that's probably true. And the U.S. government is millions of people.
Is there a specific reason or a handful of reasons, or is this a hunch that you believe that they're working with the supernatural realm or have a relationship?
Well, I can't prove that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm suggesting that. I'm not saying it because I can't prove it, but I'm suggesting it. And if you're asking whether I believe it, the answer is yes. But I believe that for two reasons. One, because I've told that directly by a couple of people who I think seem knowledgeable.
What? So basically, the government's working in agreement with the supernatural, which I'm gonna, take as ETs or NHI or something like that. Go down that side of the spiritual realm, because they do fall under that bracket. And basically, he's been told firsthand that that's the case. We're working with them. We've got an agreement with them, kind of thing.
And I attach some weight to that, though not conclusive weight. I don't know. Right? I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe they're super sophisticated liars. Maybe they're telling me the same lie for some reason. Maybe it's all part of a disinformation campaign. All the geniuses on the internet, the really smart kids seem to think it's, you're falling for the disinformation campaign. Okay. Thanks, son. I know a lot about disinformation campaigns. Okay. But it's like one of my few areas of expertise, having participated in many unknowingly. So either they're totally lying or they're telling the truth. But the other reason that I think that is for the reason just stated, which is that their main goal, when I hear a bunch of lying, I want to recognize that it's lying. It's untrue. Like, I know that's untrue. Then I want to ask, what's the nature of the lie? What exactly are they trying to get me to believe or not believe? That's really important. What is it? Like, what's so important to them that they're going to all this effort, spending all this money, getting all these journalists to repeat, knowingly or not, repeat their lies? Like, why? Why are they doing that? It takes time to do that. It's a big effort to lie. It's much harder to lie than tell the truth. So why bother? And then the third question you have to ask is what is that? What does that mean? And then, of course, I don't know the answers, but it's very suggestive. One thing I do know, and if you look at it, like the New York Times or Popular Mechanics or any of the, I say Popular Mechanics, I may be getting that wrong. I think it's Popular Mechanics, but there are a bunch of different stories that have run over time debunking certain claims about UAPs, UFOs. And some of them are quite vehement and sophisticated and mean, too. People who believe in this stuff aren't just wrong, they're crazy. They're conspiracy theorists. They're like pedophiles, kind of, in a way. I mean, that's kind of why would you attack someone for that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm
like, why do you care? Like, I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm not mad at Buddhists.
I'm totally in line with what you're saying, and I mean, we had.
But why are
There's
they doing
just
that?
so many signs too. We talked this morning about my experience about get slapped in the face by God, basically,
Yes.
right? And ever since then, I take a minute, I step back, and I try to find the symbolism in what I'm seeing at the moment.
Yes.
And I had told you I have a lot of, pretty much everybody on my team is extremely well versed in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they bring me up to speed in a hurry. But I mean, even just,
Those are the wisest people I've discovered.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
But everywhere, there's nowhere you can look and go, that makes sense anymore. Nothing makes any sense at all. The confusion of genders, it's everywhere. I mean, I was in DC. What was it, last June when we had the big pride party on the White House lawn and men were flashing their titties. I look at that as symbolism now. That is some type of evil force that's in there.
Right, I'm going to stop it there because we're kind of veer at this point in the podcast away from the UFO topic and kind of more into other worldly topics. But what do you think of Tucker Carlson's comments there? Do you think that the US government is in some kind of agreement with some kind of spiritual world? Do you think it's just the US government that might be within that agreement? Do you think there's other world governments as well? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below while you're down there. Jump to get the hell out of that like button if you have not already. Subscribe if you know and tick on my little bell to get notified whenever we upload to the channel. Until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.